with you. The interesting thing here, in my opinion, is that Ruth, a foreigner, and not just any old foreigner, but a Moabite, who, by the way, to the Israelites were child-sacrificing pagans beyond redemption, and by law were not allowed to even mix in with the Israelites. Ruth, in our text, was afforded the same measure of dignity, respect, and kindness that Boaz showed to his mere servants. Now, little is known of the religion of Moab. There have been speculations about these people and their ways, much like the practices of the African religions and how we are portrayed on the network, especially when I was in Germany. In Germany, on the television show, now granted I didn't get all the stations because I wasn't paying for it. I got the free station. But what I did see, every time Black History Month came around, I saw Africans portrayed as ancient people with savages, practically naked, carving or carrying spears in the jungles and on a safari escorting the elite. Every time Black History Month rolled around, I saw some of the worst pictures I had ever wanted to see. As for Israelite folklore and the Word of God, Moab is the descendant of Lot and his firstborn daughter. The Moabites were conceived as a result of Lot's eldest daughter getting her father drunk with wine and having sex with him in order to bear a child. Her reasoning, along with her younger sister, was such that where they were living at the time, there were no men on the earth to be found, no prospects for marrying or starting their own family. Genesis 19:30 and 32 says, Then Lot went up to Zoar and dwelt in the mountains, and his two daughters were with him, for he was afraid to dwell in Zoar. And when he and his two daughters dwelt in a cave, now the firstborn said to the younger, Father, our daddy is getting kind of old, and there is no man on the earth to come into us as is our custom on all the earth. Come and let us make our father drunk with wine, and we will lie with him that we may preserve the lineage, the seed of our father. Now, before we pass judgment upon these women, this incident in the reverse, my brothers and sisters, is not much more different from how many of the offsprings of slaves were conceived. There are numerous accounts of how the slave master would rape, coerce, and abuse my ancestral sisters, mothers and grandmothers of old, who had to bear the burden of being ridiculed and rearing a child whose father would not embrace them as their own. Lot's eldest daughter born a son and named Moab, the father of the Moabites. And according to Deuteronomy, the 23rd chapter, the attitude towards the Moabites were less than favorable. The law permitted no Moabite to marry into the tribe of Israel, nor become a member of the Israelite community until 10 generations has passed. Perhaps we can see the similarities between Ruth's history of Moabite and the Negro. Throughout history, blacks have been, by laws, were not permitted the right to become a member of the American community. Blacks, like the Moabites, were considered as an inferior people. Deuteronomy 23 states, one of the illegitimate births shall not enter the congregation of the Lord. Even to the 10th generation, none of his descendants shall enter the congregation of the Lord. An Ammonite or Moabite shall not enter the congregation of the Lord. You shall not seek their peace nor their prosperity all the days forever. And yet we find in our text, Ruth, a Moabite by birth, married an Israelite, left her family to live with her Israelite mother-in-law, working in Bethlehem and gleaning the fields to provide food for Naomi and herself. Here we have two races of people coming together for the purpose, one purpose in mind, to make life better for each other. Two nations, two races, two cultures with different worship styles, different cultural backgrounds, different skin colors and facial features, living side by side, helping each other with the grief and pain of losing their husbands. Grief, pain, I don't care what color you are, it's the same color. Here we have two sisters who are able to see that they need each other in order to survive. Both are able to see how blessed they are to have one another. One of the most touching scriptures in the Old Testament is spoken by Ruth. She says, wherever I go, God, wherever I go and wherever you lodge, I'm going to love your people. Shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die. And there will I be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more so, if anything but death parts me from you. In chapter 3, Naomi is recorded as saying, my daughter, should I not try to find a home for you? She's thinking about Ruth, where you will be provided for. These two women have come to know that if I help you, then it benefits me. African Americans have been trying through various means to educate the world about the significance of their work, the significance of their labor, their contribution, their sacrifice and gleaning that they have done in the fields of America, only to provide a better way of life for their own families and their family members. Blacks have tried throughout the centuries to communicate how painful it has been to be classified as Moabites, if you will. Those who are not worthy to even enter into the assembly of the Lord. Those whose lineage is seen as questionable and therefore unacceptable. Blacks throughout the years have tried to educate over and over and over again, not just those of different races, but our very own. And how the wounds of slavery impacts our worldview, everyday living experiences, how we relate sometimes, and even the hope of our future. Slavery cuts and runs very deep. And sometimes, if you spend too much in Egypt land, you can't get to the promised land. Scars of being treated like savages and stripped of their rights for protection against rape, against murder, castration, lynching, and whippings are still a part of who we are and from whence we come. The memories of our ancestors having to endure the psychological trauma of being separated from their loved ones, the mental anguish of having to go on with life, stomaching the pain of mothering the slave master's child and being made to the slave master's wife and mistress to the slave master himself,